Oh yeah, it is Inclusive Talk Podcast with your boy, Mr. Inclusive Lamar Walden. I am here with my co-host. What's your name, baby girl?
Fallon, you.
Haber Sham is her name, and we
I
are
have to
here.
say my last name?
I wanted to. You can say
You didn't say
Fallon.
yours.
You're right. We'll work it out. So we have special guests. Our first guest for our series. We told you we were going to do a series for this third season of the podcast, and our first special guest is none other than Dr. Stacey Pearson Orton. Listen,
Hey,
Welcome.
that's the whole name.
Welcome.
A lot of name, isn't it? A lot of name.
The whole name.
I told him earlier it was a lot of letters.
It's a lot of. It's and then you start putting the other stuff behind it. That's why we just go Dr. Stacey.
Dr. Stacey.
That's it.
That's what you're gonna be for the duration of this podcast, Dr. Stacey.
That works.
And she is a therapist, y'all, so don't be asking her to check no molds or nothing like that. Cause she
Or
ain't
corona. She ain't checking
My
no corona.
finger.
She don't know. Okay?
She don't do COVID. she's a mind.
A doctor of the mind. Yes.
And the heart. And the heart.
Yes.
Ooh,
All right.
That's poetic. Okay, so
all right.
I want to start by saying that again. This is our third season, and we kicked it off earlier this week. And this is our second episode of the third season, but we're starting a series. And this series is going to be called Identifying Different Types of Depression. And we're hitting on mental illness, suicidal awareness, and different types of depression, because we know there's many different types. And especially what's been going on in the news with what we heard about Tamar Braxton and her contemplating and trying to commit suicide. And the death of Miss
Naya
Rivera, and I truly believe that was some sort of suicidal attempt from, that's just me talking based on the story of how it happened, and a lot of other suicides that we've had over the years, even with this year. It's prevalent in our students, it's prevalent in our community. And it's something that has become taboo, and we're slowly getting out of that taboo realm. You know, we're starting to talk about it more, and that's a great thing. So I want to introduce Miss Stacey, Dr. Stacey. Let's put our hands together for her. I hear you clapping. So I'm going to throw this over to my lovely kinfolk, Miss Fallon. Let's go.
So, the reason I wanted to do this particular series is honestly because at the time when I came to you about it, Lamar, was because at the time, if you remember, I was going through some really, really deep depression. Like I've been depressed before and I felt down before, but this was like, for me, it was like next level. Like I was low, like sleeping all day, very Eeyore-like. Can you find my tail? Very Eeyore-like. I was very sad. I was very down about a situation that was going on. Not even necessarily with me. It's just I was in my feelings about it. So I wanted to do it not only to bring awareness and to help others, but to help myself, really, to learn myself. You know, so
Sure.
that was the reason I really wanted to do it. Not only that, we've had suicide in our family, and I wanted to get in depth about that because when it happened at the time, in my head I was trying to I felt bad because I was like, obviously that person was really, really hurting, because I feel like for someone to even attempt to take their own life has to have some type of hurt. They're hurting and they want the pain to stop.
Yes.
So I figured if it don't help nobody, at least hopefully it'll help me. So that was the reason. So go ahead.
You go.
Your podcast is called Being the Dot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that to us? Why? First off, why that title, which I like, by the way. Why the title?
So Being the Dot is a podcast about Black people thriving in hyper white spaces. And my desire and goal was to really tell stories of inspiration to help us to be able to cope and to help extend Black excellence. Period. And that was my goal. And so I've interviewed people like a former president of Dow Chemical. I interviewed somebody who has a golfing company. I've interviewed someone who works in Hollywood, along with a Black person going to a white church, and just a myriad of different people really kind of telling their stories. My hope is, at some level, we're all living in a white space. America is a white space. When I initially conceptualized the podcast, I really had thought about it as like, this is where you work, this is where you play, this is where you pray. But since the George Floyd thing, I've had a little bit more of a reckoning and really kind of owning that it's not just where you live or who you're married to or where you work and where you pray or play, but it is in its entirety of our experience as Black people in this country. And what's true is that it impacts our mental health. Like I oftentimes talk about, race-based stress is a real thing. One of the things that I always did, like racial battle fatigue, racial trauma, it's real, y'all. So I interviewed about 20 people when America was on fire and when the people were in the streets and like, y'all don't have to take the statue down. We're good. We'll just take it down ourselves. Boom, right? I interviewed.
Which I was here for that. I was like, yep, take that junk down.
The young people, y'all weren't playing. I loved it.
We was
No. So I interviewed some children, some babies.
Okay.
I interviewed a group of women and I interviewed a group of men. So the babies episode was a part of the premiere, but the women's episode will drop tomorrow.
Okay.
It's being the dot is being the chip in the cookie, being the ink spot, being one of the only ones, being the token, just being the dot. Like, so you think about a wall of whiteness, a complete wall of whiteness, and this one little dot right there, trying to make
Wow. So how long? Tell the people how long you've been a doctor, and how many cases have you treated within your profession?
Sure. So I earned my doctorate in 1999, but I've been doing therapy about 25 years. I don't look that old, do I?
No, girl. Don't play with them stores.
You know what they say.
Black don't crack. That's it.
It just doesn't. So
that black dot don't crack. That's what that is.
All right, the black dot does not crack.
Unless if it's on crack, does it crack? Does that is that a thing?
But crack is whack, so this
right.
So I earned my doctorate in 1999 from Pennsylvania State University. I started with therapy in 1992, so I've been in the game for a long time. And in fact, more in my current job, I work in higher ed space. I'm really not doing, my practice is not very robust, but over the years, I have treated many, many African Americans and Black people who are dealing with depression, some of them who have been suicidal, some of them who have attempted suicide. I had a private practice. I lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan for about 10 years. I had a thriving practice there, private practice, side hustle, where all I saw was Black women. Yeah, from 18 to 80.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So tell me, depression. You have, and as I say these different types of depression, you can help me if I miss any. Can you explain what it means to have it and where it comes from?
Sure.
So clinical depression.
So clinical depression is a depression that disrupts your functioning. That oftentimes it is organic, that is coming from the inside. That there's something not firing correct in your neurotransmitters that don't allow your body to pick up the chemicals that it needs to ward off depression. So it's diagnosable. It's in our books that we use to diagnose people, and it can be disruptive.
Now, is it? I guess the word I want to use is treatable. Is
Yes,
that where people would usually get antidepressants?
Yes, often, or therapy. Well, and what we know is true is that therapy and medication are more effective together than they are either one of them alone. And you could think about depression as a continuum, right? And so we all have moments of sadness and blueness, of things that happen so when the George Floyd murder happened and subsequent civil unrest, I was sad. I was kind of blue. It was upsetting. I was having trouble sleeping, like all of those things. And so that's more kind of incidental, more adjustment. And then there may be some seasonal depression that y'all don't know anything about living in Florida.
Right.
But where people who live more in the Northeast or the Midwest, like myself, that they are dealing with what it means to have the sun go away for full time. Yeah, because it gets gray here. Like it gets so gray, and the sun is up, but it is not shining. If that makes sense.
And where are you located again?
I live in Central Pennsylvania.
Oh,
but I've lived in Michigan where it's straight gray. And then you have people who may be feeling a little bit more depressed, like if you keep coming down the continuum, who may have had an incident, a loss, or something else that happened that it gets messed up and complicated by and not fully worked through, and they may be dealing with some depression. And then you have people with kind of fully diagnosed what we call a major depressive episode.
Now, what is because I've been called this before. I won't say by who. Yes, I will. My mama did it. Manic depressive.
So manic depressive is someone who swings between the two extremes. And so that they a season of depression and then a season of euphoria, where they feel like the world is on their shoulders and they can do anything, that they may engage in shoplifting and other kinds of risky behavior. That and sometimes that's accompanied with a thought disorder, which is kind of like when people are not that the thoughts that they have are not anchored in reality. Not all the time, but sometimes it is. But manic depression is something different than depression.
See, now me, I don't think, now that you explain it, I don't think I'm manic depressive. I think I have my moments when I'm down and I'm kind of melancholy, and then some days, I wake up and I'm just like, as today, for example, I woke up in a very good mood. I got up, I played with my baby, we went over letters and colors, and I was just in a good mood today. Not necessarily as good as yesterday, but I wasn't in a bad mood yesterday. And I think maybe that's why she calls me that on occasion, because sometimes I'm down, sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down.
I think it's also more of the extreme. Like someone could say that when you're down, you're really down. And when you're up, you're like, yo, the world is my oyster. Let's do whatever while I'm in this moment. Let's just do it.
Let's get it done.
Let's get it done.
Right. And so you may be shopping. You may find that after you come out of that you'd have ordered everything that Amazon had.
Yeah.
Or
it's very addictive.
Girl.
That look.
The FedEx man is my boyfriend.
Oh no.
God.
No, not really, but my boyfriend is my husband. But
that's right.
He come every day, Mr. FedEx and or Mr. UPS. But anyway.
Right.
Yeah, and so it really is an extreme. And I think sometimes we don't oftentimes understand that people who are dealing with depression can have times that are bad and times that are better. And that we see that as the extreme of manic depression, but it is not. But we use a lot of psychological terms that way that, that are not really the true clinical diagnosis.
Another one that I think, now that I look back and I think on it, postpartum depression.
Oh yeah, that's on my list.
And I
feel bad.
He doesn't have kids. I like after I had my daughter, and I think it might have been because I couldn't leave the house for X amount of days, and I was used to, at the time, getting up and going. I was very disconnected, and it's sad to say, but for like the first month of her life, I was very, very disconnected. I wasn't feeling very motherly or matronly. Like I was just like, ugh, now what? Like,
well, and that's not uncommon that that happens, that your body has been through this traumatic thing, and that your hormones have gone from not being pregnant to being pregnant, to all the cycles of being pregnant, to then dispelling this thing that was in your body. And so, it is very common for people to deal with postpartum depression, and sometimes they don't recover. That thing will linger. That's not always the case, but sometimes that is the case. And then, of course, you hear about these extreme situations where a woman is postpartum, they don't feel connected to the child, and do something to harm that child.
And see, I didn't feel that extreme, but I think what really kind of like made me feel kind of disconnected, breastfeeding just was not working.
Ooh, I tell you.
And that is bad. So there is so much pressure.
It really is. Like
so much. It's better for the baby. There's so much.
Yeah, and they're not very gentle about it. Even in the hospital, they're
especially the baby.
Right. She was not happy. I could not keep up with my supply. Couldn't keep up with her demand, and she was not happy about it. Right. But even in the hospital, they were like, "Here, try this," and then they kind of cup your boob and they do this little thing to it. And it's just,
yeah. And there's so much pressure, and I think even the social media culture plays a role in this as well. And so, I oftentimes say that we're getting on social media, you're getting an edited version of people's lives. And so I might show you a picture of me and my husband outside of church. All of that, right? But you know that we got into an argument.
Right before them pictures.
Right, no, on the way to church. Hallelujah. Right?
Over collard greens, Lord, just everything.
Everything. Over nothing. I mean, I don't like your shirt. Why you wear that shirt? With wrinkle, whatever. But I'm not saying that ever happened before. I'm just talking.
So I have a question.
What's that?
Why do you think women get postpartum? Like, what do you think that derives from?
I think it's hormonal.
Hormonal.
It's complete. I think it's completely organic. It is internal. It is not something that they've done wrong, or something that is fundamentally wrong with them. It's the way that their body is still trying to recover.
So what is the feeling? If both of you can answer, what is the feeling that you get during it?
It's like, it was like, and especially if you're a first time mom, the baby's always crying. You still can't figure out what the cries are for, or you've done everything textbook wise that you can think to do. The baby's crying. Okay, the baby's dry. You fed the baby.
Right. It's just woke up, so it's not tired.
Right. You hold in and you're rocking the baby, but the baby's still crying, and it seems like nothing is going right. Like you can't get it right. And for me particularly, I had a C-section, so I couldn't pick her, and I was by myself. Physically, I couldn't hold her and pick her up and walk with her and rock her like how maybe someone with a vaginal birth can do.
Right.
So I just felt like, man, I am not good at this parent thing. Why did I decide to put myself through this?
Well, it is, and I think there's also a great deal of anticipation and identity as it relates to motherhood. And I mean, and from the time you get your first baby, so you get baby wet. We are socializing women to be mothers, even at that moment.
Wow.
And so when and you know, you read the books, what to expect when you're expecting, the community is with you. Oh, when you get to be a mother, you're gonna blah 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 blah, whatever that is. And then when it doesn't go perfectly, that's when it becomes really complicated. I think the same thing can be said for a wedding versus a marriage, or any kind of new venture identity. And I think what's particularly important about motherhood is that it's an identity. And so that you're transitioning into, in the same way when I got married as older, I was 42 when I met my husband. So I had to transition into my identity as a wife. And the same thing is true. And when it's not going the way that your wish dream said it should go, then it can be very disconcerting.
Now I wanna shift to suicide and suicidal thoughts. Where do you think it originates from?
So let me talk a little bit more about depression, and then I'll get into that. So some of the symptoms of depression: sleep disturbance. Either you are sleeping too much, or you can't sleep at all, or you're having early morning awakenings. Low motivation, that the things that you would typically enjoy, that you're not even motivated to do them. Overwhelming feelings of guilt, lack of energy, trouble concentrating, changes in your appetite up or down. What we call anhedonia, and basically that's an inability to enjoy the things that you would typically enjoy. The big two always say are food and sex. If it's a problem in those areas, pay attention. And then as well as social isolation, that you don't want to be bothered with anybody. Maybe you take to the bed. And one of the things that we see in Black men, crying spells as well. And then one of the things that we see in Black men that is particularly distinct for them is a low frustration tolerance.
Ooh, speaking.
That they are easily irritated. They can't quite manage their frustration. That it just is difficult to contain that part of their emotions. And then, of course, the last one would be suicidal ideation.
Okay.
You got me? And so when you think about suicidal ideation, differentiate that from self-injurious behavior. Somebody cutting themselves is not the same thing as suicidal ideation. People cut for different reasons than for suicidal ideation. Main problematic piece of being and thinking about suicide is hopelessness. But that's the most common factor, and that people don't think it's going to get better.
You said homelessness?
No, hopelessness.
Hopelessness.
That they don't think, thank you for clarifying that, Lamar, that they don't think that it will get better. And then that hopelessness leads them to a very dark place where they're thinking about either low level, they're thinking about suicide as a death, not suicide, but death as a means of escape, right? It would be nice to not be here. Versus if you go all the way, again, another continuum, if you go all the way down the continuum to death is a great means of escape, and I'm going to do something about it to make that happen. My experience has been that most people are ambivalent about killing themselves and taking their own lives, that in some level, in some shape, form, or fashion. And so sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes we can intervene and ask them, are they thinking about it? And that can induce some hope installation. But I will tell you, when we get a suicidal client into our offices as therapists, our main thing is to do hope installation.
I know I'm usually the person that people come to when they have when they're in a zone of it's too much.
Yeah, he has a way of bringing people back. I don't know how he does it.
He's the family therapist.
I don't know how he does it, but he does.
I don't.
Every
either.
family has one. It's my Aunt Dot in my family.
Really,
Okay.
It's been a blessing and a curse because back when I was younger, I'm 31 now.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in my 20s, it was really heavy. That people would constantly, I was the come-to person. I'm talking about older cousins in their 40s would come to me and talk about marital problems. I'm like, I've never been married. I can't help you. But then again, I always knew that if someone came to me with something and they wanted my advice, who to go to.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And the only one that can really give me that is him, of wisdom and understanding. Or someone just wanted to be listened to and told that everything is going to be okay. But I realized that I had to slow down with people coming to me with their problems because I'm the type of person that energy transfer to.
I was going to say that.
I'm an
we
energy
all
person.
are that way. We
all
are that way.
But it's really strong with me that if you come with that, I've had to tell people, listen, no, I can't, or I'll get off the phone. I couldn't handle it. It'd be so much because
too much weighing on you.
So much weight, and it's like I start to feel what they're feeling. I take over their emotions and their feelings, and I'm a person that struggles with my own type of depression. I'm a night owl, just with me, but that started from insomnia. That started also from being scared of dying in my sleep.
Wow.
And that was what my depression. Yes, that was what my depression derived from. It was me being at my best, never at my lowest, at my best, and never feeling like it was good enough. And so doubt and hopelessness crept in at my best when I was busy, when I was working, when I was doing the most, when people were loving me. Like my name was just everywhere. And it was like the enemy. I don't want to get, all churchy.
Go ahead.
But the enemy would be like, you ain't doing nothing. You ain't what you
in my ear.
Those people don't really support you.
You think what you doing is all that? You ain't all that.
They talk about you behind your back. Your family don't love you. They ain't gonna never buy your stuff. They ain't gonna never support you. They ain't gonna never come to your shows. They ain't child. What you think you doing? And I would. It's not that I would believe it, but it would bother me because after that thought, I realized that I exercised that thought so much in my head that I started to actually see it manifesting. And I realized that what you think in your mind, that's why I think all things that are suicidal and depression, it comes from the mind. That's why when we were little, all of our teachers found and said, "What a mind is a terrible thing to waste." Because if you don't exercise your mind and train your mind to only do positive things and have joy when everything else seems to be cloudy and dangerous and in disarray, in your mind, if you see other things positive, then you won't be affected. But I allowed the exercising of the enemy saying, "You're nothing, you're nothing, you're nothing," to play so much in my head that it started manifesting like a movie.
And it's an interesting thing. So I'll take this from two aspects, if that's all right. The Bible says that we are transformed by the renewing. And so certainly our thought patterns play a very, very important role in our moods, right? And the therapy that is deemed to be the most effective is therapy that deals with your thoughts. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. It is one of the only empirically based treatments that we have to help people with depression and anxiety. And so you're dead on there, Lamar, that it is your thought life that makes a difference. Now, the complexity of that is, it's not just that, because you could have a thought life that is on fleek. However, if the neurotransmitters are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, it could be that you still suffer with depression or fighting depression.
Wow. Wow.
Now, my thing is, and I don't know if you've had any patients like this, but I don't even know how to verbalize it. Okay, for example, Miss Tamar, I've heard her say on a couple of occasions on the many shows that she's on.
And we're praying for you, Tamar. We
really are, because I was just so heartbroken when I heard about it. I was very much worried for her. She says, you might need, like, if someone's having an issue, she'll say, you might need to go to somebody you can tell all your business to. In her words, a therapist.
Amen. Absolutely. Right?
But my thing is, and it's not even, for me personally, it's not even so much as telling all my business, because I kind of talk a lot anyways. But sometimes, and even though I think it might help, sometimes I don't like to admit the fact that I need some type of help, like something's going on.
Just for stubborn. Me, just a brick.
You want me to pop? Hey, you want me to pop you?
I'm back.
Okay. So, I don't know. It just feels like a sense of, and it's bad, but it feels like a sense of weakness to reach out for that type of help. And I don't know if it's just me or if it's like my environment, because some, in the Black community, sometimes we don't like to admit when there's a problem. That's or right. Admit that we're having or saying that we need to go to a therapist.
Well, that's what we say. That's white people stuff. That's right. Yeah. Absolutely.
You don't need therapists. You need Jesus.
You need to go to church
to get some Jesus.
Right. Yeah, right.
And sometimes you need the trifecta. You need Jesus. Mm-hmm. You need a therapist. And I don't know what the third thing is, but yes.
Right.
Medication. No? Okay. I don't know.
No, that's good. That's good.
I don't know. That's good.
No. So Fallon, listen. It is weird at first. And psychology has not been kind to Black people historically. And so I understand a little bit of our hesitancy to seek a therapist. Mm-hmm. Can I poke at you just a little bit here?
I'm a pincushion. Poke me.
She's also fluffy.
That sounded weird. That sounded slightly weird.
We're good. So, if you had cancer, would you go to the doctor?
Me personally, probably not right away, but eventually I would.
Or did you have your baby at home by yourself?
Oh God, no. I wouldn't have made it through that.
or are there other things that you enlist people to do to help you?
I see where you're getting at. I see what you're getting at. Yes. So
a therapist has a specialized set of skills. I went to school for 13 years. I am not the same as your girlfriend Tamika.
Right.
Wow.
Unless I'm your girlfriend, then I'm not your therapist. But but there's a specialized set of skills that we have to help you work through what you are dealing with. It's not a weakness, because I'm going to tell you, any therapist worth their salt has had or currently has or will have a therapist. Just their situation kind of clean and not messy or dirty, so that they can pour out of.
Just like how even a doctor will go to a doctor. Right.
Absolutely. And so I think that you can have Jesus and have a therapist. And the two mutually exclusive, and you can have both. And so maybe what you need is a brown therapist to help you, because then that makes it a little bit easier.
More personable.
Yeah, and there's some unspoken, you don't have to explain it, you don't.
Right.
And so I highly recommend therapy and having a therapist, particularly if you're in a difficult season where you need help sorting out some things. And one of the benefits of having a therapist as well is your therapist is not connected to anything in your life.
That's true.
And so they don't have an investment in really you doing anything. they can kind of expose what's happening, look at patterns or themes, help you figure out how to make it different.
In a non-biased way.
Absolutely.
Because, see, my thing is, and I'm working on it, I swear I am, I don't like to look vulnerable. And I think, cousin, when I first pitched this whole idea to you, that was one of the words you said, vulnerable. And I don't necessarily, and I don't like to look like I ain't got it altogether.
Right.
But that was why.
Stuff. That's that strong Black woman foolishness.
Right. But that's why I wanted to do this, because I'm getting to the point in my life, and I don't know if it's because your girl done hit 30 or what, but I'm at a point in my life where I'm okay with looking a little vulnerable every now and again.
Absolutely. And it's not that you don't have weaknesses. It's about being a strong Black woman. It's about a woman of strength. Strength is stable. And so you can have weaknesses and have strength. That versus strong, you're just trying to work it up all the time and want to be strong. But hold all of that up all the time. I can't. Life is hard, man. It's real. And so I'd be fair to yourself. And even if it makes you look weak, who's going to know that you went to see a therapist?
Who going to check you? Who going to check you?
Who going to check me?
Who going to check you, boo?
Right.
I can say that, going off of piggybacking on what Fallon said, it was really shocking for me. I think I was against this. Matter of fact, I knew I was against this because I don't like this topic. But I had to get out of that because I had to grow within myself in that moment, and I had to realize that this is not about me. You have a cousin that literally just said that she wanted to do something that she would have never said ever in life 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, that she wanted to do something like this. This is being vulnerable and out for her. And what type of cousin would I be if I didn't allow her to use our platform to do something like this that can indirectly help her in the long run by talking to different therapists and doctors and other people that have gone through what everybody is going through,
right?
You know, because like I said to her, and I said many people, everybody, I don't know not one person that is not going through a mental breakdown.
Right.
And whether you do it behind closed doors or in front of somebody, you have gone through a period of your life where you have said F this, where you have said, God, I don't know if you're there or not, where you have said my children is going to be all right without me, where you have said this world is going to be all right without me. And you have gone there mentally and you have gone there emotionally.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people have gone there physically.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm here to say that those things are normal. And it can get better. In order to get something different, you have to do something different. And Fallon, I really respect the fact that you put yourself out there like that.
Thank you.
That this is the first step. I'm struggling. And what both of you need to know is that the way that you're using this platform is so important because there's so many people out there struggling in the ways that you described that will find your story to be familiar because it's similar to their own.
So, you know, I think I want to do this. This just dropped in my spirit. And cousin, you can, if you want this to happen, will happen. Because I think I want to keep you for the duration of this series.
Oh yeah, she's good.
Yeah, and I think as we add people on, you'll be the only continuous co-host. For the series because I have
okay with that.
I saw other doctors and other people on there, and it's okay if they come on and do that. But I think your spirit connected with me instantly, and you were literally the first person that gave me your information. As far as like an email address and to how to contact you. Everybody else was just like, oh, my podcast. Just check out my podcast. And I'm like,
yeah, let me know.
Well, how do I contact you? And so you being our first guest was God designed. And you don't just come from a doctoral point of view or a psychologist point of view, a psychiatrist.
Psychologist.
Psychologist. Point of view, but you come
What's the
from.
difference?
Oh, that's a great question. But hold on, wait, let me finish. But
Finish
you come
what you're
from
saying.
a real person. You know, you are literally a real human being. You don't let your doctor title overshadow you being a black woman and someone who's gone through mental health and depression yourself, and so you know what it is from a clinical background and from just experiencing it yourself. And I appreciate that. So I want to keep you on for the duration of the series. That's a
so
great
you
question.
asking me for a second date?
Yes, and a third, and a fourth, and a fifth.
Well, I have to talk to Mr. Wharton and see
Talk to him. Oh, one question: is your husband in that field, or does he?
He is not. My husband is a chef. He has a thriving baking business. VegasDeliciousDelights.com.
I love bread.
I love that name. I don't know why. It just made me want to eat a cookie or something just
right
now. Oh my God, that is a good name.
Yeah, it's a serious matter. Let me tell you.
Lord, so the difference between
tell the story.
The difference between psychiatrists and psychologists.
Yeah,
psychiatrists go to medical school, and they are able to write prescriptions for medication.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Psychologists are typically doctoral level folks like myself. And then there are counselors who are oftentimes master's level in a variety of different fields. So marriage and family, or mental health, or children, or what the case may be. And then the third is, I lost my train of thought. Social work. Social work.
I've always thought or knew that somewhere in me I've had the love, because we both work with children.
Yeah, we do.
And I have the love for working with children further beyond educational and academic, but more so their mind. I visit homeless shelters and youth shelters and facilities where young people, I've talked to many young people. Even with my last job, I was a mentor and a tutor. And I told my staff, I told my team, hey, there has to be some times where we take a break from academic, because we're not just tutors, we're also mentors. Let's take a break from academic and really get into these kids' minds. These kids are coming from classes, 4 or 5 classes a day, and they come straight to us and got to go straight into work. They don't get no break. They don't get no time to relax. They're in school every single day. Let's see what their mental is about. We're wondering why we got behavioral students and why we got kids that are crying, or kids that are hurting, or kids that are acting out. Let's be mentors and talk to them. Maybe if we share a little bit of our life growing up when we were their age, they'll take us more personably instead of looking at us as if we are, above them. You know what I'm saying?
And sure. That's good.
They took that.
I think you should do one of these 3 episodes should be on children's mental health. Now, I'm not your girl. I don't do children.
I like that.
And so
I'm sure we can find somebody.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, because I think that one of the things that really held up for me when I was doing the interviews after the George Floyd murder was if you get some time to listen to the Out of the Mouth of Babes episode, and the kids they understand what's going on. They have feelings about it.
Kids are so smart, and a lot of people do not give them the credit. These kids, and I tell my staff all the time, look, don't keep the little babies, like little 3-4-year-olds, yeah, whatever. But like them older ones, because I'm the particular program I work with is from VPK to 5th grade.
Okay.
And I tell, especially in my counselors for the older groups, like 2nd grade and up, sometimes first grade, like, don't talk down to these kids, because they're here. Okay, they are here. They are aware of things. Like, they know what's going on. Like, we had a situation where one of the kids in my program was hurt really, really bad, really, really bad. Like, it was touch and go for a minute, and I decided that we should all make a big card for her. And I had everybody, all the kids, and we had like 120 some odd kids in the program at the time. I had all the kids sign it. I had the counselor sign it. Me and the rest of the manager staff signed it. And the plan was to take it to the hospital with some balloons and give it to her mother or what have you. But I didn't want to say who the card was for or why we were even doing it. So when I asked the kids or told the kids this is what I want us to do, they were okay with it, yeah, but the older ones, those smart, sneaky little fifth graders were like, this must be for so and so. Huh? What? Who said that? Why? Why would you say that? I didn't say that. But they some of them were already aware of what had taken place.
And they didn't. You can't lie to them.
You can't. And they didn't like the fact that we as the adults were tiptoeing around it. Mm-hmm. And I finally just had to let them know, look, out of respect for the young lady and her family, I don't want to get into the details. I don't want to put that information out there. If you find out on your own through social media or the news, because it was all over, then that's on y'all. But I don't want to be the one to put that information out there. Mm-hmm. And then finally they were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But it was like, and I kept telling the counselors, like, they're not going to let it go. So let me just address it.
Sure. That was smart.
Mm-hmm. But kids, man. And see, I'm on the other end of the child care spectrum, like how Darius, you're like, here you like to, get in here. I don't know if it's my maternal instinct, but I'm like, come here, let me help. I'm more so on the lovey kind of, it's going to be okay. Come here, let me pat you on the back of the head and cradle you in my bosom type of love for my babies. Even the older ones.
It takes both. Because you have to do that first. Honestly, you have to do that first for them to even trust you. Mm-hmm. Cradling children is that thing that they can take from birth. You know what I'm saying? That's their first instinct is, and kids will instantly cry because the feeling of a warm body holding them, especially a mother figure. Yeah. If they're not being hugged at home, if they're not being told I love you at the home, counselors, that's why I always say when we're in this field, be careful, and this is to the people that are in hiring management, be careful who you hire to watch over these kids because these young 16, 17, 18-year-olds
fresh out of
high school, they're coming with their bad energy. They don't like your kids. They just came from being fifth grade their damn self. Excuse my language. But they wouldn't understand. How to nurture a fifth grader or fourth grader or third grader because they're not emotionally balanced yet anyways. Even the 21-year-olds, they're worried about their check and I'm out the door once I get it. And that's so impersonable. These kids at Firewall, my last job, before COVID happened, these kids were so embezzled. Is that the right word to use?
Embedded.
I was like, embezzled? No, don't embezzled.
Oh my God, you took the kids' money. No.
They were so embedded in me and who I was because I was so different from everybody else. Not that I was better, but I was older and I was different. And to the fact that they called me daddy.
Oh, wow.
And at first it was like, okay. But when this young lady who's my favorite, and I don't try not to do favorites, but she is my heart. When she came to me, she said, I don't see my daddy a lot, but every time I come to Firewall, I love it because I see you and you remind me of my father because you're funny like him. And so when she started it was a trend that went through every other child, and it became where one time we was doing a test because we were training them for the FSA, so we were tutoring them for that, and my group failed, They failed, and I did something that I had never done before. I fussed them out. And I told them, you should be ashamed. You should be embarrassed. You should be disappointed in yourselves because you did not take initiative to take our teaching, to listen, and to study. All of them crying. Oh, just crying. Mr. D, what happened? They failed.
Mm-hmm.
The next time they had to take the test, they all passed. And I said, do you see what happens when you take initiative for your own self? There was one girl, and all the kids had passed their test. She failed, and she cried because she was the only one that failed. She did not like reading. She did not like taking tests. She just didn't want to do it. The next time they had to take the test, all of them failed, and she passed. I made sure. I made sure that when she came back to school, I said, I thank you and I love you so much because do you know that you were the only one that passed? And she was like, and you have to tell these kids when they've done right, not just when they've done wrong.
Love it.
Yeah,
they love it.
Absolutely.
It's so important for their mental state to not just be like a C. You can do better than that. You're not a C student. No, a C. Baby, that's good. Let's work on getting that B. Let's work that up. Let's work that up a little bit. It's all about how you speak to these kids because that's how you speak to them is how they're going to respond back to you.
Yeah, and I'm glad you went into that because I've had a situation because I've been at my job for 6 years.
Wow.
I've been at my job for 6 years. I've been to many different sites. I've been in a managerial position at many different sites, and I've gone through a lot of kids. And every time I see them, regardless of where I'm at, Miss Fallon, like, it's the whole big thing. Even if I leave one site and I go to another site for a year, and I just so happen to see my kids from the other site, they immediately leave their counselor, which is bad. They're not supposed to do that. They leave their counselor and come rushing over to me. Every single one of them. Every time. Never fails. And I had a situation where when I first got hired, I was talking to this young lady, and she had been giving me some for real problems. Like, she was not playing. She was something. And I sat her down one day and I said, why do you do what you like? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? What's the reasoning? What was that reason? Like, I was like, why? And she was like, I don't know. And I said, is it happening to you during the school day? Because I think she was in the first grade at the time, and she was so mean to my VPK babies. Like, she was so mean to them. And is it happening to you? Like, is someone doing that to you? Are fifth graders bothering you? Like, what's the problem? And she was like, no, nobody's bothering me. Nothing's happening at home, And I ain't had no choice but to believe her. But I was like, listen, baby, you can't be like that. Like, it's not good. You're not gonna have a lot of friends if you're like that. And if you do get friends, they're gonna be mean like that. And eventually they're gonna be mean to you like that. And I let her know, look, Miss Fallon love you, and I don't want you to be like that. Yeah. And I guess she relayed the conversation to her mother. And at the time, her mama loved me now, but at the time, her mama did not like me. And she told my supervisor. And my supervisor came to me and said, my supervisor at the time was like, Miss Fallon, did you tell so-and-so that you love them? And I was like, yeah, why? And she was like, I don't know. She wasn't necessarily, like us. And she was like, I don't know if you necessarily should say that. And I was like, but it's true. That's how I love all my babies. And I'll tell them in a heartbeat. I said, I don't know if you know this, but in this neighborhood, there are a lot of broken homes. And I don't know if these kids hear, I love you at home. And I want them to know when they come into my classroom that this is a classroom of love. We give love around here. If you don't get it from nowhere else, you can say, oh, Miss Fallon loves me. She told me so.
That's right. Absolutely.
And I don't know what it is about they don't want you to say stuff like that to the children. I'm not saying I'm in love with the children, but I love the babies. I don't want nothing to happen to them. If something happens to them, I'm sad and hurt just like it, just like their parent.
Exactly.
And I just don't like the I don't even know what to call it, like the watered downness of it all. Like I had teachers tell me they love me, and
well, back in our day, we didn't have what they're going through now. With we didn't have the outward pedophilia. We didn't have the teachers sleeping with children and all of that kind of stuff.
It was happening. It was happening.
It was happening, but it wasn't out. It wasn't out like it is now.
Right.
So they're more so aware of it now. So that's what that is.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, she had an issue with it, but my parents
didn't have it. Yeah.
My parents didn't, and still don't have an issue with it. My parents love me, okay?
Because it takes a village.
Right, and they trust me. And that's what I told her. I said, this is how I build trust, not only with the child, but the parents, the teachers, everything. And that's why I have such a rapport with some of the people at the different schools that I do. And some of my supervisors, Miss Stacey, them supervisors do not like the fact
that's a whole nother talk show.
That them kids love me the way they do.
That's a great thing, and it molds you to be the parent that you want to be. And so, as we close with identifying different types of depression, as we learned, there's so many more that we didn't even touch. And,
right. Good thing this is a series.
oh yeah. There's so many more that we didn't even touch, and as we go along, we'll be able to identify more of why we have certain thought processes. I didn't get to touch on it today, but I want to discuss maybe the next time the movie Inside Out, the Pixar movie Inside Out.
Oh yes. Oh, Miss Stacey, you
what you talking? You have to see it, Miss Stacey.
You gotta see it, and the way he breaks it down. Good stuff. Good stuff.
I watched it. I heard about it from Kevin on Stage, who's also a podcast.
Oh, I love Kevin on Stage.
I love him.
Gotta love him.
And he was talking about the movie, and I was like, that is a great way of explaining mental health and depression. And I was like, what is it? I don't watch Pixar. I stopped watching Pixar after Toy Story. I was like, I'm grown now, so what is Pixar? But
I've seen it 1,000 times.
It was 2:00 in the morning, cousin. 2:00 in the morning. I said, I'm going to get up from this table, go to my room, turn this light on, and I'm going to watch my movie. I'm going to watch this movie from beginning to end. And I took my notepad. I got this notepad. And I started writing notes. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, yeah. I definitely will watch that.
I started writing. It's so... How do you explain it? Because it's the...
It's what, the movie itself?
Yeah, it's not just as Pixar. It's the way they captivate the script and the meaning behind all the emotions that this little girl had.
What they really did was they took mental health and or mental how the brain works basically, and they broke it down and turned it into something that just seemed, if you're not really paying attention or if you're really not looking for it, you wouldn't even realize what it is because it's a kid movie or but it's good. It's good, especially when he broke it down to me, because I hadn't even thought of it like that myself, and I've seen it, like I said, 1,000 times with my kids at work. I didn't think nothing of it until he was like, hey, did you know da-da-da-da? And I was like, you know what? You're right. And I think I'm going to go rewatch it.
I'm going to watch it.
That's your homework. I want you to watch it so the next time we can share. I want to know, I don't know why this is so interesting to me, but it connects with mental health and depression. So it's like, it's the glue that makes it Oh, it's so simple. Oh, that's
And
why.
it's Miss Stacey.
You
It's
know?
good. He even
It's
broke
good.
me down based on the movie.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I will
Yeah.
definitely watch. I may even watch it tonight while I'm cleaning the kitchen.
Oh, that'll be so great. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
this has been the first episode. No, there's no. Yeah, the first episode of the series, identifying different types of depression with none other than Dr. Stacey. And we thank you so much for being on. And we're gonna have you back for the direction of the series because
Oh, can't
you're needed.
wait.
You
Well,
are
thank you
needed.
so
wait.
much for having me. It was a blast to be with.
And thank you for coming.
Of
You're
course,
welcome.
absolutely.
Thank you, cousin, for initiating this series and this podcast. I thank you, and my
I do my
platform
thing
thanks you.
sometimes.
It's going
Yes,
to be
I do.
wonderful.
I do my
This has
thing
been
sometimes.
Inclusive Talk Podcast. This is also going to be on Anchor because it's not just recording; it's audio recording as well. And so I'm going to put it on Anchor, and we're going to have it also on YouTube and Facebook, so you can look for it anywhere and be inclusive.
Oh, and because it's on Anchor, it'll also be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Yes, and Spotify and Google Podcasts as well. Oh, we're everywhere. Oh,
Oh,
we're
we
all
all
a lot of places.
we all
Yeah.
all the places.
He's enlarged our territory. Oh, yes, he did. So, last but not least, show love, wear your mask, be safe,
wash your hands.
love your friend, wash your hands,
Please.
and don't as Black people, don't shy away from therapy. I think that's the biggest message that we could ever send to you throughout the series. Therapy is necessary, but it's better if you get it from somebody that looks like you.
Can I share one more thing before we go?
Yes, you can.
Yes, please.
Looking for a therapist, a couple of great places to look is the Association of Black Psychologists has a directory where you can look up Black psychologists. There's also another really great podcast called Therapy for Black Girls. And on her website, she has a provider directory as well. Sorry. And then the last one is the Psychology Today directory.
Awesome. So you have that information, and I'm gonna throw this again. Throw the ball to my cousin so she can say what I gotta do, cousin.
Be inclusive.
And you heard it from us. Peace.
Bye.